We're back after 3 years, Houston, New Jersey. Welcome again to another episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast, where we encourage you to laugh every day, work hard in recovery, work hard in your relationships, work hard in your job, business, school, just work. Life is about work. And to love unconditionally. Just put much more love out there and watch much more love return. Remember, recovery is beautiful. Your EQ is your IQ, and you cannot outthink an emotional issue. Now, what we're encouraging people to do is go to the website, lifeiswonderful.love, LOVE, download the free Recovery Growth Scorecard. Gives you tips on how to start recovery, because we all start on our own first before we actually seek help. A lot of ways to get natural dopamine, natural serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, start healing the brain, detoxing, and then you're starting to live a different way. Now, let's jump back in. How are we doing? How are we feeling today, James?
It's been 3 years, huh?
It's been 3 years. March of 23.
Time flies.
Yeah, episode 75, and now we're on episode 225. So lots happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah, lots happened for the worse, but lots happened.
In terms of gambling, not in terms of our lives. But.
Sure.
So tell, just briefly, just a quick history. You live in New Jersey. You grew up in New Jersey. And obviously you were in the gambling industry. Now you talk a lot more about prevention and that's how the questions will go. Any background you want the audience to remember?
Well, the only thing about, my story, to kind of give a condensed version, is as it pertains to what we speak about, the industry, the prevention. I was in the industry briefly in 2019 on television at a regional sports network in New York City, sponsored by DraftKings.
There you go.
I left under my own terms. There were some reasons, personal situation with the network I didn't agree with, but eventually I walked away from the industry completely because of the way the industry was conducting itself, the lack of prevention, the lack of disclaimer, the advertising, all the fun stuff that we're going to speak about the next half hour.
All right. Well, that actually kind of leads into question one. We talked about it briefly back in 23. And so people don't remember, 21 is when things started ramping up with sports betting. And New Jersey was the state, the number one state. They sued the NCAA. They were the first state to start the sports betting outside of Nevada. And it's an industry term talking about responsible gambling. And they do this just so they can actually try to tell the world that they're trying to do something worthwhile, something that's helping the gambler, when we both know that the industry only cares about trying to make as much money as they can per day, per hour. So let's go back to those two words, responsible gambling. And unfortunately, it's not just the gambling industry. It's also the people that are trying to help the compulsive gambler, the problem gambler. We see the National Council on Problem Gambling. We see a lot of state councils talking about they have a responsible gambling model. Share your views, because I remember, you talked about that they are complete opposite terms. Talk about those two words, responsible gambling. What have you seen
in terms?
Okay, and what have you seen these past 3 years in terms of the damage that it's doing?
Well, first of all, it's a conflict in terms. This was on the onset, what the gambling industry put in place as their definition of social good, when in reality, all it is a message of inclusion to welcome the end user into the room. Do this responsibly. But what it's doing is it's kicking open a door to an addictive, harmful product, as we know. And once you get in, as we've seen, and as we know personally, how hard it is to get out. And really what they've done is they've put a team of answer to the dollar ancillaries in place, whether it be media or whether it be people in the gambling industry, to offer this as bet responsible, all it's doing is putting all the responsibility on the gambler. A lot of them who aren't fully aware of the scope of this product, the devastation, the harm that it does, the addictive nature of the product. This is a loaded product line that we weren't accustomed to when we started gambling 20, 30 years ago. I mean, the phone and the technology and the media and the accessibility is where this conversation begins to separate. But my biggest rub with this responsible gambling, whoever it is, and we don't have to go through all the players and the names because I don't want to start that side of things because you know how I feel. And if anybody's following me on social media and talks to me, we all know those players. But what they're doing essentially is walking into a room to give a conversation to a bunch of people who they don't know the first thing about. 21 to 24-year-olds. Okay, you don't know anything about these people. You don't know about their wellness history. You don't know about their financial history. You don't know about their trauma, their pain, what they've come from, if they have addiction in their blood, in their DNA. And you're going to open the door and offer them a gateway to this product and then walk away from them and leave them with this product in the hands of the industry that's paying their check.
And then you introduce
that.
and then you introduce alcohol, drinking some beers, and then that just accelerates the
Well,
game.
it all coexists. Look, I mean, it all coexists with one another. The whole addiction tree of the establishment, the products, the alcohol. I mean, I know guys that didn't get broken by gambling financially, but their brains were so kidnapped by the activity, that it was dominated their life. They never had time to cook a piece of fish and broccoli. It was always picking up fast food and always rushing to get in front of their parlays at 7:00. So this is a loaded wellness conversation. It's not a one size fit all, just gambling, just money. Would you agree?
Right. Well, you never would tell someone, just shoot up heroin responsibly. Just do responsible coke snorting. I mean, no one says that. And I equate gambling with drugs and including alcohol. There's no such thing because once you cross that line, you're not going to do anything responsibly or in moderation or have some type of check marks. It doesn't
I
work.
mean, all you need to see is the evidence, the whole moderation myth. I mean, look at the obesity rates in this country. You can eat moderately, just have the pizza and the hot dogs on the weekend, and nobody moderates. Who moderates? These are all
Exactly.
addictive products. I mean, as we see what's going on, I mean, with the food, that's a good place to start. But it's gambling, it's alcohol. And then later on, after all the evidence comes out, aligned with the big tobacco playbook, we see how many people suffer, tens of millions of people. It's just in time. But the difference between the big tobacco playbook and this gambling playbook is the rapid speed of technology and the algorithm and the constant in your face and the email. Big tobacco didn't have those components.
But then also how the gambling industry has changed over the 3 years because what it just started out is I'm going to bet on the game. I'm going to bet on the total. And now this constant push into prop betting and then with all the whole things of now, and they're making it easier, like yes or no, high or low, like, whether it's number of yards, whether it's pitches, home runs, on different types of sports. And then the live betting, which is accelerated, even though now some of them are trying to scale it back. Major League Baseball is looking at the live pitching. Some NCAA, some states are trying to curtail some prop betting within their college athletes. But those are the other things that are accelerating the destruction because, like you said, anyone who's 21 to 25, they're not going to be able to know how the industries manipulate them in other different ways to crash faster. It took me 20 plus years from 12 to 33. These guys don't have a chance.
No, and you brought up a point about the MLB. All the MLB did was reduce limits. And again, we stay on this financial topic because everybody thinks this is only a money conversation. It's a mental, it's an emotional, it's a physiological, It's a wellness conversation. Forget about gambling. Gambling comes after. All this stuff comes much later. So all they did was shut down the limits. But what this micro betting product, which should be banned, and I said that in 21, 22. I mean, uh, just from the eye to the brain to the hand to the phone, and it creates a rapid impulse control disorder. And I can handle it, and you can handle it, but I don't know if we could have handled it at 21, 22 years old.
Exactly. Hey, well, let's jump into question two. What people don't realize is that all the different types of gambling are designed to hit different demographics of people. And sports bettors have historically been athletes, especially if you, like both of us, excelled in high school basketball. And a lot of people who play sports, number one, they have that competitive fire. Number two, they believe they understand the game because they played the game, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, as the big three. And then they believe that they have an edge. What would you tell a lot of high school athletes right now where, they got that feeling like they're invincible? You're 17, you're in the weight room, you're on the court, you're on the field. What would you tell them about sports betting when they're talking a lot about and they're about to embark on a college career, whether they're going to college to play sports or they're just going to just go to college and then they're going to be on their own?
I mean, this is a simple answer from me, and a simple, since day one of my advocacy, this has been about avoidance to these products, to these people. This has been about alternative. I work out of the gym. I'm at the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I got some 19 and 20-year-olds in there who I speak to, and they're interested. These kids want to be led. Some of them, and some of them think they know everything, but they do listen. I mean, they're goofy and they screw around, but they do listen. And I just tell them straight up, delete this app. Don't even start. Get away from all these kids that are doing it. They're offering zero value to your life. The smokers, the drinkers, they're making you worse. So if you're interested in making money, because these kids want to make money fast.
Right.
And, some of these 3 kids that I'm talking about, they're all locked into crypto, and they don't even work. And where did they get this money? Their parents put them down. So this one kid's telling me his father put him down with like $100,000 to get kicked into crypto. And I mean, I don't know much about that, but I guess it's aligned with the day trading. So if they're making short money or making increases, they're drawing and they're putting that into sports gambling. And it's just this whole revolving hamster around the wheel, and they're going to end up, dead out. It's just a matter of time. But, that's my whole thing. If you want to make money, like I told him, like, I have a financial guy who's a decent guy, honest guy, trusted guy. I'll put you in touch with him. Kick him 200, 300, 500 a month, whatever you're forking over to FanDuel and DraftKings. Maybe 7, 8, 10 years from now, you'll have a nest egg sitting there. You'll have a few $100,000. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you stay the course with gambling, you're going to have nothing but debt.
Right.
Nothing but debt. And we know this. And I mean, the evidence is out there. It's mounting every day. We're not hearing about 99% of the people are winning and making money and buying jewelry and buying BMWs and buying this and that. We're hearing about just this, the public getting carved up financially. And then all the emotional strife and all the physiological stuff. That comes much later. I sit here at 50 years old and I see the guys, 40, 45, 50, 52 years old. I see them now. They couldn't get out. They stayed with the course. They stayed with the booze. They stayed with the drugs. They stayed with the, whatever the vice was, the food, whatever it is. I see them all now. They're completely physiologically eroded. They're dead out financially. They're broke. They're divorced. They're a mess. And it's heartbreaking to me. It really is. I don't and you got a phone call.
No.
So yeah, that's my take on that. And like I said, I'll get you kicked in with a financial guy. I don't want anything from it. I don't make a dime from it, but I'd rather see you, go on a different path where you're going to have something in 5, 7, 8, 10 years.
Right. I hear you. A lot of times people don't realize is that is the way to kind of do it. Like they say, time can help you make money. All the time when you're trying to make that short hit. And I know a lot of people here in Houston, I've heard the same story that parents give their kids some stock and then they either convert the stock, they do some option trading, and then they try to do sports betting. And it's just not a winning formula.
Well, let's rewind that. You said a key word, the parents, which to me, they're a
Right.
huge part of this problem. I
Right.
mean, they don't want to be educated. They just want to believe what suits their mind and not what is. They don't want anything to, I mean, I know there's people that I know that open up accounts for their kids with DraftKings, 19 years old, in their name with their cards, but they got to, we monitor it. It's only $5 parlays. What they're missing, again, whatever the financials are, the financials are. But once you create that impulse control disorder, and once it
Right.
penetrates a neurological growing transmission brain that's not fully developed, you can't get it out of you.
You
I,
can.
I sit here at 50 years old, man. I haven't bet in 6 years. The majority of my compulsive gambling, was in my 20s. And to this day, as much as it drives me crazy, I left the industry. I walked away from tons of money, that whole life, whatever it was. And to this day, you see me on social media scrutinizing the industry and talking prevention, all these things. I still gravitate and get pulled, and it's much easier with the phone to know what some of these lines are. It's crazy. I can't help
Uh,
myself. And I have no urge to watch a game, to gamble a game, to get in that environment. Nothing. But I mean, I could probably tell you what some of the lines were on some of these playoff games. I haven't watched a football game in years. Hand to God. I mean, I don't watch the NFL, but I watched some college years ago, but and a lot of it's from the algorithm. Like, I'll catch some stuff. Look, if you're talking prevention and you're talking harm and you're talking the things that I talk about, the algorithm doesn't know. They're just going to spit at you the FanDuel
right.
ads, the lines, the bad beats, all these people screaming and bitching and moaning that the games are rigged, things that we
Right.
were talking about 5 years ago, things that I was talking about 15 years ago. And people were like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist or you're negative. And now they're saying the same things.
Right. There's so many more games that are fixed as well as
They're partners.
right.
And it's
They're
unpleasant, but it's the truth. Nobody wants to hear the truth, but it's the
right.
unpleasant truth because it gets in the way of their illusion and their fantasy and their ego and all the money they spend and all the time they spend. And they want to bring their kids and it's tradition and all these things. Most of these games, a lot of it's a big scam. You know what I mean? Like wrestling, they admitted wrestling was scripted years later and it got bigger.
Right.
So, the consumerism isn't going anyplace. And I've gotten in debates and arguments with lawyers and professors, and they better take care of the integrity of the games. Why? For what? Unless you're talking player protection, and that's a different conversation. And I'm aligned with that side of it. But don't sit here and tell me that these games and sports fandom is going to be impacted because a couple of these games are fixed or point shaved. Bullshit.
I hear you. Let's go into question 3. Back to New Jersey. New Jersey was the first state that started this sports betting ball rolling. Supposedly, New Jersey collects X amount of dollars for treatment. I've talked to some other people in New Jersey, and they say it's hard to access this treatment money because obviously the state doesn't want to be ripped off, fraud. Where do you see New Jersey implementing more treatment dollars, or where would you like these treatment dollars to be placed?
I mean, I'm a prevention guy, and you know that about me. So, in my fantasy world, there'd be dollars allocated by the state for pure prevention advocates or activists like myself to get into communities, to get into schools and offer a loaded conversation to people that haven't been taught any better before it becomes their choice. Yes, without question, the industry should be responsible for a lot of those recovery dollars. I mean, they're just making so much money hand over fist, and it's all based on public loss. So they have a responsibility in that conversation too. But I'm not well versed in the recovery bullet points of what's necessary. And I'm not a big recovery guy. With all due respect to what you do and what a few of the other guys do, who I have great respect for and learned a lot from and follow. But you know, and I don't know if you know Brian Hatch, but I've been on his podcast a few times as well. And I had the same thing with him. And it's just like the recovery stuff, it's so status quo for the harmed addict. It's the later chapters. It just goes into a system and ends up there if people hit rock bottom and they're willing to get themselves some help. Where I fall in is the chapter one and the chapter two and the prelude part of this to avoid some of those people going to recovery. It's going to be inevitable. People are going to need that treatment without question. But if you can intervene early and catch a few of them, I mean, because the recovery is going to be hell. It's going to be a shit show for these kids. They're not going to have any place to run from this. It's right,
Or they're taking a lot of money from their parents' own retirement. Because
yeah. And I
parents
mean,
start to bail them out.
again, it's a public health, it's a wellness, it's all those things we talk about. But I mean, like, it just gets to the point where, why aren't we doing more on day one? Why? I mean, look,
Exactly.
they don't want guys like us around. I get it. They don't want guys like me around talking to 18 to 24-year-olds about not making donations and increasing their business and their expansion. They don't want, certain guys like are marginalized. We're definitely marginalized. You know what I mean? But even the stop predatory gambling, I love Les. I love what Les is doing. Some of the people he has working for him, they do great work and they press hard. They push hard, for federal regulation, and they're 100% accurate. But in the quote unquote meantime, every day with the expansion and these products and the advertising and the accessibility, we're losing more kids and families to this. And it's so underreported, as you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I know. We don't hear about all the stuff that's going on. You probably hear more than I do because you're in the recovery. You fall into the recovery circle, and I don't. I'm on here trying to convince kids to stay the hell away from this and find something else to do.
Right.
You're helping them when they don't listen to me.
I try to talk at any stage.
Yeah, and I mean, and what I like about you is you're not afraid to go into that side of things too. The prevention side. The most recovery advocates, I mean, the thing that drives me crazy is like we talk about, and I don't even want to mention these, harm reduction groups and advocacy groups that are all partnered. They're partnered with the NCAA. They're partnered with Entain. They're partnered with FanDuel. They're partnered with DraftKings. So they're compartmentalizing the conversation on what they can say and what they can't. I mean,
Right.
they're not really talking about the mental health side of this or the physiological side. These are people that could not do any of this responsibly back in the
No, I
Stone
got
Age,
you. I got you.
right?
Right.
Back in the Stone Age. Now, could they imagine doing this now? I mean,
That's it would be harder.
I'd be taken. I mean, I couldn't handle it. This thing in your pocket all day,
Exactly. And then always
So
being urged because people don't realize that the winning phase is probably going to be shorter. The losing phase will be shorter, but the desperation phase going to come fast. And
yeah.
then you just don't know. And then you're upside down, and
Well, the
it's
CP
hard.
and I know we're running out of time here, but the CPTSD part of it has got to be examined because the stress and the trauma and all of the triggers for these young
Well,
kids.
yeah, that's why there's more.
Yeah, the
The
anxiety.
anxiety is going up. The depression is
100%.
going up. I
Yes.
mean,
And nobody
there,
wants to talk about these things because they're too unpleasant. But it's the reality.
right.
Nobody wants to do reality,
I
as
get
you
you.
know.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time this afternoon. And with that, we are going to conclude this episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast.